Good morning, dear students. Mr. Mahmoud Azab with you. Lesson 16.3. Continue to classify quadrilaterals. By the end of this lesson, the student will be able to classify quadrilaterals using hierarchy. Look at the quadrilaterals below. In the table, write the letters for all the figures that are trapezoids. Then do the same with each of the other quadrilaterals. List the letter of each figure in each group. The first group for trapezoids. Where are trapezoids? Yes, R, S, O are trapezoids. Parallelograms. G is a parallelogram because there are two pairs of parallel opposite sides. M is a parallelogram also. L and V. Why V is a parallelogram? Yes, because it's a quadrilateral with two pairs of parallel opposite sides. And also N is a parallelogram. Rectangles. We have only one rectangle because the rectangle is a parallelogram with four right angles, so G is a rectangle. Squares. Are there squares? The square is a rectangle with four right angles and four equal sides, so there are no squares. Rhombus. The rhombus is the parallelogram with four equal sides, so four sides are the same, so we have only one rhombus. It's V. This family tree shows how special quadrilaterals are related to each other. You can classify quadrilaterals using this tree. The main figure is quadrilateral. We have two main types of quadrilaterals: parallelograms and trapezoids. In the parallelogram, there are two pairs of parallel opposite sides. In the trapezoids, there is only one pair of parallel opposite sides. Now, we'll continue with the parallelogram. We can classify the parallelograms into rectangles and rhombuses, because both rectangle and rhombus are parallelograms. Of course, the rectangle is a parallelogram, as we said before. The rectangle is a parallelogram with four right angles. And also, the rhombus is a parallelogram with four equal sides. And we have also the square. The square is a rectangle, and also it's a rhombus, because the square is a rectangle with equal sides, and it's a rhombus with four right angles. As we said, the square is the parallelogram with four right angles, so it's a rectangle, and the square is a parallelogram with four right angles, so the square is a rhombus. Each branch of the tree shows a subcategory of the figure above. For example, the square is a type of rectangle. All rectangles are parallelograms. So, a category can have more than one subcategory. Each figure shares all of the properties of the figures above it. For example, a square and rectangle have four right angles. Another example, the square and the rhombus have four equal sides. Question 1. Explain how the family tree diagram on page 864 shows that every square is a rectangle. This is the family tree on page 864. How this family tree shows that every square is a rectangle? A simple answer. Since a square is below the rectangle in the family tree diagram, so every square is an example of a rectangle. Question 2. How are rectangle and rhombus alike? Simple answer. Both rectangles and rhombuses are parallelograms. And 3 to 6, tell whether each statement is true or false. Question 3. All rectangles are squares. We can use the family tree in page 864 to answer the questions from 3 to 6. Here it is. Again, question 3 says all rectangles are squares. Look at the family tree with the rectangle. Since the rectangle is below the parallelogram in the family tree, so every rectangle is an example of a parallelogram, but it's not an example of a square. So question 3 is false. Question 4. Every rhombus is a parallelogram. Using the family tree, since the rhombus is below the parallelogram in the family tree, so every rhombus is a parallelogram. Yes, it's true. Parallelograms are special rectangles. Look at the family tree. Parallelograms are in the family tree. Parallelograms are not below the rectangles. So parallelograms are not special cases or special rectangles. So it's false. A trapezoid can be a square. Use the family tree. Is the trapezoid below the square? No. So trapezoid cannot be a square. So question 6, false. In 7 to 10, write whether each statement is true or false. We can use the family tree to answer the questions from 7 to 10. Here it is. Question 7. All rhombuses are rectangles. Use the family tree. Look at the rhombus. Since the rhombus is not below the rectangle in the family tree, so every rhombus is not a rectangle. So question 7, false. Question 8. Every trapezoid is a quadrilateral. Use the family tree. Look at the trapezoid. Of course, the trapezoid is below the quadrilateral in the family tree. So every trapezoid is an example of quadrilateral. So 8 is true. Question 9. Rhombuses are special parallelograms. Look at the rhombuses. Rhombuses are below the parallelogram. So every rhombus is an example of parallelogram. So question 9, true. Question 10. All rectangles are quadrilaterals. Use the family tree. Look at the rectangle. Of course, the rectangle is below the quadrilateral in the family tree. So every rectangle is an example of a quadrilateral. So 10 is true. Question 11. What properties does the shape have? Why it's not a parallelogram? Of course, this shape is a kite. What properties does this shape have and why it is not a parallelogram? Simple answer. Of course, it's a quadrilateral. Use the family tree. Is this quadrilateral? Yes, it's quadrilateral. With two sets of equal non-parallel sides. Each two equal sides are not parallel. So again, it is a quadrilateral with two sets of equal non-parallel sides. So it's not a parallelogram because parallelograms have two pairs of equal parallel sides. They must be equal and parallel in the same time. Question 12. Why is square also a rhombus? Use the family tree. Simple answer. Both are parallelograms with four equal sides, and the square is found under the rhombus in the family tree diagram. Thank you and goodbye.